I'd love to hear more about your process for iterating a message. So, just to give an example, let's say it's your first draft of a message that you've gone out with and you've got quite a poor response rate in the first wave, or you feel like it's a poor response rate. I guess the temptation is to change lots of things about the message. You know, there's multiple variables you've gone through: title, personalization, call to action. How do you manage that with also then being able to measure what impact those different changes have had?
Yeah, that's a great question. So my advice there is start with one part of the message first. So logic would suggest that that's the subject line. So test out 3 or 4 different subject lines and don't change anything about the message and see what improvements you can make with that. Once you've found the best possible subject line, move on to the next, which will be the first opening sentence and personalization. Again, test out a couple of different approaches with that, reference different things, see what works and mate it. And follow this sequentially, because you're absolutely right, Joe. The problem is that the temptation is to just go in and rewrite the whole thing. But if your response rate suddenly spikes, there's no way of knowing what part of the message was responsible for that spike because you've just rewritten every single thing in there. But if you do it very sequentially and very logically, you'll be able to identify what are the moving parts. If we go back to one of the earlier slides about marginal improvements and marginal gains, that's what we're doing. We're tinkering with bits of elements gradually, but that allows us to track what's working. And then I would also advise on this part is that you keep a swipe file. The copywriters call swipe files. Essentially, these are when they see an advert or they receive a message that really stands out to them, they save it into a document, into a folder. I do this as well. If I get a really good outreach message from a recruiter or I see one, I will save it into my swipe file so that you don't have to constantly rely on fresh inspiration. You can actually go in there and use it. And with your own messages, when you get high performing emails that are out there, keep those in a swipe file as well, because you can go back and you can recycle elements of them with a new job so that you're not starting from scratch again.
Got it. And what's a sensible sample size if you're going to go out there with 4 different titles? Like what's a good sample size to know which is the one?
I would say at least 50 candidates is a good sample size. You know, any less than that, it's very difficult to really judge the accuracy. So I would say at least 50 candidates, ideally more than that. So I would split it up. I would probably send 50 to 80 with one, say, subject line, and then another 50 to 80 with others. Now, of course, for those of you that work in markets where you would absolutely love to have 50 to 80 candidates per job, of course, it's not particularly viable. But in those instances, the earlier point I made about preparation is even more important. So if you're recruiting, say, director level positions, you need to spend more time preparing your messages to have the most amount of impact going on. You can't afford to just test willy-nilly with hundreds of candidates because you don't have hundreds of candidates as well. But don't forget, the follow-ups are also a great way of testing different things as well. They're a chance for you to try out different forms of media, educate them, try different things. I didn't cover it in the presentation, but also try different modes of outreach, whether it's calling. I've been using the native LinkedIn video and voice notes. You have to be first degree connected with them, but on the mobile app, you can record a short voice note of up to, I think it's 60 seconds. Same with the video, keep it to 30 to 60 seconds. That will make you stand out as a different channel. So it's got to be a multi-channel approach, ideally, as well.